That always brings a little. Lovely, thank you. And now, after having our hearts and minds opened a little further, we welcome this morning Reverend Linda with her message for us titled, How Not to Miss the God Moment. Synchronize the 12 powers purposefully. Good morning.
Well, good morning, everyone. I have to tell you, you need to pay attention when you're driving, because I got distracted by something on the radio as I whizzed by the telegraph exit off 94 at about 70 miles an hour and went, oh, well, I'll just go to the next exit, make a unit. Guess how far the next possible U-turn exit was. There is a purpose to paying attention. And that's what we're here to do today. We're here to pay attention. And I thought, gosh golly, I'm going to preach on paying attention. And there I was, distracted by something on the radio. Well, it was obviously something I needed to hear, though it can't have been that significant because I've forgotten it already. Now, isn't that the irony of life? Absolutely. I'm going to we're going to take a new look at an old concept. Do you remember the first time you heard that word, the 12 powers? And you thought, gee, well, I wonder what they are. And then maybe somebody talked about one or two of them, and there is one for every month, and then you can wear a color that reminds you of it. And oh yes, and then there's the Christmas Eve service where we have a color candle for each of the powers. And I thought, wow, that's a lot. And one year when I was a guest speaker out of town in another state that shall remain nameless, we had a very crowded 12 powers at Christmas Eve service. Do you remember when we used to put all the candles in a sandbox and people had hysterics that the church was going to go up in flames? This young woman came up with it wasn't a baby, but it was definitely a big enough baby that it was aware of what was going on. And after she took her candle and touched all 12, she put the candle in the baby's hand and touched all 12. And I was struck by a thought, magic thinking. Friends, these powers are not magic thinking. They are not, oh, if I think about it and I talk about it and I wear the right color and I say the right affirmation, it's going to work for me. It's not that. What I would like to say is they are attributes of God in which we participate. And we don't have to ask God to make them work for us. It's not. That's not the case. I would like us to think of them as competencies. Competencies. After all, the attributes of God, God doesn't sit there and go, I think I'll practice imagination today. Okay, I'm practicing imagination. Oh, you know what? I think I'll make a world. And then I'll make water, and I'll make earth, and I'll separate it. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. They are qualities, they are competencies, they are actions which we can take. And for that, I would like to quote from my really, really old copy of the 12 Powers. It has Rev. Linda Dominik on the page. My name has changed more than once since then. But anyway, yeah, here's what I wanted to read to you. Mr. Fillmore's words. The subconscious realm of man has 12 great centers of action. Now, he uses man. I'm going to change that word when he uses man and say human being. And where he says he, I'm going to say he or she. Okay? It's not that I don't approve. It's that society has changed. And we write differently today than we did back then. So here we go. When Jesus had attained a certain soul development, he called his 12 apostles to him. This means that when a human being is developing out of a mere personal consciousness into a spiritual consciousness, he or she begins to train deeper and larger powers. He or she sends his or her thought down into the inner centers of the organism, and through his or her word, quickens them to life. I don't remember how long ago I read those, and when I read them again, I went, wow, if I hadn't underlined them twice already, I would have underlined them again, but if I'd underlined them one more time, I wouldn't be able to read them. And I thought about this. These 12 powers, friends, are part of our identity. They're part of our identity. When God created humankind, Genesis 1:26, and God created humankind in God's image and likeness, God created an embodied image of itself. So it stands to reason that all the competencies that God had, it put into us. Think about that. Think about that. And, maybe attention should be one of the 12 powers, since I wasn't paying attention this morning. But this significance, this identity, is what we come into the world with. And, we have talked about the emergence from the garden. There we were, happily living in the garden, running around in our birthday suits, not knowing they were our birthday suits, but running around anyway. Did you ever wonder, did anybody ever get sunburn in paradise? Probably not. I'm sure God would have fixed that rather nicely. Anyway, then we have the whole what I call the apple incident, and I'm not going to belabor that story since it isn't one of my favorite ones. And we leave. We leave under a bit of duress. Out, out, out. I don't believe that God really said that to us. I think God looked at us and said, beloved children, it is time for you to emerge into a matrix in which you must use the competencies that I have put inside of you when I made you in my image and likeness. Go on, get out there. And look at what we've done. Look at what we've done. All right, there's two sides to that one. Oh my God, look at what we've done. And wow, look at what we've done. We all have in our purse or pocket today a blessing and a curse. What is it called? A cell phone. We're either attached to it, or it's like, oh, if I could throw it under an 18-wheeler, I would. Haven't we had those feelings? So here we are in this matrix. We've emerged from what we consider to be a perfect state, not in a fall, but in a rising, into a matrix in which we are to use the powers, the competencies that God gave us. There's a second part to this where Mr. Fillmore goes on to say, human beings send their thoughts down into the inner centers of their organism, and this word quickens life for them. Where before these powers have worked in the personal, now they begin to expand and work in the universal. This is the first and second coming of Christ. And I'd like to stop for a moment here and say, folks, the jazz version of I Behold the Christ in You, next time dance tempo, okay? I mean, we had one dancing by himself. Next time we're all going to be I Behold the Christ in You, and we can do it in the house. I loved it. I loved it. Because, friends, that is it. That is the life-giving force within us, the Christ presence. You can call it whatever you want, but it is. It's what makes us get out of bed in the morning. It's what makes us travel through the day and do what we need to do. But let me finish, Mr. Fillmore. He says, where before his powers have worked in the personal, now they begin to work and expand in the universal. This is the first and the second coming of Christ, spoken of in the scriptures. The first coming is the receiving of truth into the conscious mind. And the second coming is the awakening and regeneration of the subconscious mind through the superconsciousness of Christ's mind. So the first time we heard the 12 powers, there's 12 powers. Oh, really? Really? And the second time we look at it, we have embodied it. And it is providing us with a new energy, a new way of being in the world. Friends, in a way of speaking, life is only one moment. All of life is only one moment. It's a God moment. Because why? Because without God, there isn't any moment. Because if God leaves your body overnight, you don't get out of bed in the morning. Not even if you wanted to do what I always tell you to do, walk into the bathroom and go, good morning, God, thank you for yesterday. What am I going to thank you for today? Because when the life of the presence of God leaves us, friends, we have transitioned to a new level of spiritual existence. So as long as we are still here, God is present to us, and we are engaging in these 12 competencies. Well, if life is all one moment, then I have good news and I have bad news. Some of it's nice and some of it's not. Would I have an agreement on that one? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. For a moment, I would like us to look at these 12 powers. Now, if I thought of this a whole lot sooner, like maybe Thursday or so, Mark told me we could have made a slide, or I could at least have made something that I could have put up on the bulletin. So you're going to have to bear with me. I'm going to read through them. The first one is faith. I'm going to go through them quickly and then look at them again. Faith, strength. We used to call it judgment. I prefer to call it discernment. Judgment is, oh my God, will you look at that? As opposed to, well, that's interesting. Do you see the difference between judgment and discernment? And you know what? We do that when we look at ourselves in the mirror sometimes. We look and go, oh. And sometimes we just go, oh. So that's a good one. The next one to me is truly significant. It is love, followed by imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal. That's kind of an archaic word. Nobody talks about zeal anymore. Are you excited about this? Yes. Do you have zeal about this? What's zeal? Elimination. Mr. Fillmore had referred to that as renunciation. I don't think I've heard anybody use the word renunciation in a sentence in the last 30 years. So elimination is the same principle. And then lastly, the exercise of all of these competencies bring us to life. Life, which is what we do every day in every moment as the embodied presence of God. So here we are. Let's take a look at them. We all know what faith is. It says this so in Scripture. Faith is the vision of things hoped for. When we have faith, we can say, I can see a better tomorrow. You know, it's what's the old joke? When you're up to your armpits in alligators in the swamp, you remember why you were there, to drain the swamp. That's it. When we're in the middle of something, we remember, oh, I know. I'm supposed to be able to rise above this because I am an empowered individual of God. Strength. I cannot tell you how many times my mother used to say, oh, God, give me strength. You know, she would say it in English, she'd say it in Polish. She probably knew another language, she would have said it in that too. Which one of us has not said, oh, God, give me strength? The point is, we already have the strength. We already have the strength. Can I pick this whole thing up and move it? No. But can I pick up this glass of water without spilling it? Yes. Friends, we're not talking about a physical capacity. We're talking about an intellectual, a spiritual empowerment, an ability to be strong. And what does strong mean? It means actually to be full of faith and standing firm. Then I like discernment. Okay, you know discernment is the difference between Chunky Monkey and Cherry Garcia for me, right? Yes. Now, I like to make that joke because it's so human. It allows me to be human. But discernment, friends, is recognizing that no matter how the person next to us or across the street from us or on the other side of the planet from us is still a Christ being. No matter how they look, the color they are, the kink or the straightness of their hair, the language they speak, the food they eat, the postures they take when praying, they are still the Christ presence embodied. And those differences are embodied for our amazement. For our amazement. I remember a long time ago, I think I was in high school, yes. And we had brought together a Thanksgiving basket. You know, you get a bushel basket and you bring stuff in it. And we decided that the recipient was going to be the convent of cloistered Carmelites, kind of a couple miles from the church. So one of the kids who had a car and could drive, was old enough, not all of us did back in the day, we got that in there and we went over and we rang the bell, pulled on the chain, and the turnstile opened and we could see the nun. And this was November, Thanksgiving week, and she was wearing sandals. And I thought, in upstate New York in December, she's wearing sandals on a stone floor. That was a need for discernment about why is she doing this? What is the objective? And whatever her reasons are none of my concern. She is allowed the freedom to make the choice of living that life in that way. Also, my understanding at the time was they took a vow of silence. I don't know, but when I was 17, I thought I wanted to be a cloistered Carmelite nun. As someone said to me many years later, and never say another word, Linda? That wouldn't have worked at all. And of course they were right, but I didn't know that at the time. So the next one, friends, is love. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Imagination. I've used this sentence before. We've used it in church school. We tell the kids that imagination is the scissors of your mind. You cut out pictures of what God can look like as your friends and trees and animals and your kitty and your doggies. That's God's love expressing for us. That's imagination. The scissors of the mind. And then there's understanding. Mr. Fillmore's definition of understanding was God standing under everything. So when I'm standing here behind this podium, I remind myself, it is not I but the Father within who is speaking these words, who is sending me these words, who sent them to me all week and is now making them come out of my mouth. Because every once in a while something comes out and I go, oh, where did that come from? It didn't come here on Tuesday. It appeared right now. And I go, thank you. Thank you. Friends, understanding. Will. Will is one of my favorites because will has two qualities to it. Will is willful and willing. Willful is my way or the highway. We do that a lot when we're 2. Eat your oatmeal. No! Even when we get a little older. Honey, don't spend so much money on the credit card. I will if I want to. We just vary the way in which we express our willfulness. But then there was the willing bit. Do you know what the illustrations of willingness in this church are? The soup and spruce. The soup and spruce. They give you a bowl of soup and you're on your hands and knees cleaning, or you're dusting, or you're doing whatever you're doing. We're coming together. The junk in the trunk programs, whatever group things. I am so looking forward to the Thanksgiving dinner. It'll be in November, and I'm so looking forward to that. When we all come and we bring, and that is the willingness to recognize one another as the Christ. And then order. Some could say that the world today appears to be profoundly disordered. And if we look at it from the perspective of humankind, we see war, we see anger, we see suffering, we see destruction, we see famine, we see shoeless children, we see bodies wrapped in cloths. And we're going, what kind of order? What are you talking about? And then at the same time, we get on a highway and we're driving at 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, and everybody stays in their lane, and we manage to get from point A to point B most of the time without having a terrible accident. That's a very good illustration of order. Does it fail sometimes? Yes. And the reason for that, I don't know. And then here's one of my favorite ones that we don't hear too much anymore. That's kind of like, zeal. We don't hear zeal too much anymore. But it still exists. It's excitement. It's excitement. Are you looking forward to that? Yeah. What are you looking forward to? Well, my nephew's coming in from wherever, and he's bringing the blah, 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 blah. Oh, and what are you going to do? We're going to have a big dinner? That's something homey and loving. Or, like one of our board members, who when I called her and said, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, she texted me back and says, can't talk to you now. I'm in a cruise in Alaska. And I'm going, yeah. I texted back, oh, yippee, have fun, been there, done that, got that t-shirt, enjoy, see you when you, and she said, see you at the Pet Blessing. So that sharing, that is being zealous for someone's other joyful opportunity. And then the process of elimination. Elimination, it is God's love for us, friends, that the body in which we live has a process for releasing the toxins that we accrue through our human processes. We eat food, we chew it, we swallow it. Certain acids and other enzymes produce debris. And that's why, thank God, we invented sit-down toilets. Because there didn't used to be sit-down toilets in a lot of places. And unfortunately, friends, in some parts of the world, there still are no sit-down toilets. It's a hole in the ground. But the other process is we can look at something and say, oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Oh, gosh, I really messed up there. I can do differently. I can apologize. I can make an amend. I can change my way. Elimination. That's what we need to think of as elimination. Elimination. Because what do all of these 11 bring us to? They bring us to life. Because they are the competencies with which we go through life. So the request of all of us is to be present to the God moment. Because what is the God moment? We think it's that moment when Julie's singing and we're going, or some moment, some sweet baby is going, or a kitty or a dog comes and jumps up on our lap and kisses us. Don't you love kitty kisses and dog kisses? I do. I don't care if they're slobbery. I love them. Besides, I've had a couple of human slobbery kisses. Who cares? They were nice too. So, friends, this God moment is the span of our day, our night, our life. The thing is to be present to it. Because what are we looking at? Oh, gee, the gas tank is getting kind of low. I better stop off. I better start looking for cheap gas. Oh, I found one. Oh, great. Oh, that's fantastic. Credit, same as cash. Yippee. Can you get gas for $2.97? Credit or cash? That's, yeah. Yes. And then it's trying to make a right turn out of, say, a driveway at a bank or something. And the traffic is going, and the traffic is going, and the traffic is going. And suddenly, as it slows and a gap appears, you're thinking, oh, should I risk it? When the car stops. The car stops. And you go, oh. I don't know what you do, but I always go, thank you. And you know what I did the other day? It was some nice looking guy, and I went, thank you. I bet I made his day. I bet I made his day. Would have made my day. And friends, the thing is to be present. To be present to the opportunity to be the embodied image of God. The embodied image of God. We can do it and be it. And here's how. When we understand that these competencies are the matrix within which we live, that we already have them. We already have them, and they are part of our consciousness. 4 things are needed. We need to be aware and awake. That takes some effort, because I don't mean just, okay, I'm up, I'm dressed, I'm walking around the kitchen, or I'm out in the garage, or no, be aware and awake what's going on. When you're out in a crowd, are you aware and awake? Are you able to sense a certain energy? We cultivate that at church, because what do we experience? As our service unfolds, our awareness of the presence of God within all of us begins to expand. By the time y'all are standing in the middle of the aisle singing, you could, the energy is as high as the ceiling. So we need to be focused. We need to be attentive. We need to be alert. And we need to be willing. Oh, willing. The participle of the verb will. Willing, as in consistently. Friends, one of the greatest distractions we have today, and I'm not the only person who's saying it, people with a whole string of letters after their names and a bunch of degrees, and they're saying it on TV and every place else, we are so distracted today. It's a wonder we're not walking into the walls. Where do you put your phone? Is it strapped right to your ribs? Is it in your pocket? Is it hanging off a pocket? Where is it? Can you put it down? And then what happens when you need it? You run around going, phone, can't find the phone. And having like, oh my God, I can't find the phone. Now what am I going to do? Well, I get the iPad and I go, find Linda's phone, and then you tap on, make noise, and then I'm running around going, phone. Oh, there it is. The problem is it's a black phone. You put it on a dark piece of furniture. Duh. But that's not the issue. It's the compulsion to be connected to that source of what we think is energy, wisdom, and knowledge. It's merely an instrument for sharing it with others. The source of energy, wisdom, and knowledge is within each of us. I would like to suggest that the most significant power of the 12 that I mentioned is love, because it's what Jesus talked the most about. And we find it in both the Old Testament and the New Testament, and it says pretty much the same thing. You shall love the Lord your God, the God within you, with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your being, and thy neighbor as thyself. We're getting into the weeds here with the neighbor bit. As thyself. Most people don't even get to as thyself, because we get stuck on neighbor. Who's my neighbor? Is that the one that's got the sign on the lawn with a name on it that I don't like? Who's running for office? Yeah, let's be real. The distractions of today's visible world, friends, does not encourage us to love one another. Does not encourage us to love one another. But what did Jesus say? Love thy neighbor as thyself. Which brings us to the final point. I know, I keep telling you, get up in the morning, go into the bathroom, bedhead and all, and go, good morning, God. Thank you for yesterday. What am I going to thank you for today? Do you understand that's an act of love? That's an act of love to God? Acknowledging that the Christ presence within you gave you whatever it gave you yesterday. Oh, the best cup of coffee at Panera, or the super sandwich somewhere else, or the person who let you finally make a turn, or, the slightly day-old bananas that you found on sale, which you're going to make banana bread with and share with people. Do you see how the consequences of being present and allowing these competencies to work significant, you know what I mean, together. Sometimes the tongue, synergistically. There we go. Thank you. Friends, the power that we possess as human beings boggles our mind, because we don't understand that the root of the power is the presence of the Christ within us. So when you leave today, I want you to take some of this with you. Oh, and by the way, some of us have been online on Wednesdays on Zoom at 11 o'clock. I teach every Wednesdays on Zoom at 11 o'clock, and we have been exploring these competencies. It's not too late to join. You just pop in if you want, and we've done about the first 8, and we're going to do the last 4, and then we're going to see how we can work them together. Like, I'm faced with this issue. Which competencies do I need to bring forth? So it is a very practical aspect. We have a lot of fun. We all kibitz. We mostly keep ourselves unmuted so that we can chime in. And I would invite any of you, Wednesdays at 11 o'clock, just go to where it says Unity Church of Rochester Zoom link, tap on it, and we'll find you there. It says this, and I love this because I never know which one of these is going to be here. It says, God is love. Divine love draws to me all I need and desire. I am loved and loving. That is, friends, the fullness of these 12 competencies within us. God so loved us that at our creation, God endowed us with these competencies, and we have the obligation to use them. Ernest Holmes says there is a power for good in the universe, and you ought to use it. Ought to use it. Not, well, you can if you want to, or maybe you should, or only sometimes, or once in a blue moon. You ought to use it. You ought to use it every day. And we're going to use it right now, as I invite you into a time of quiet meditation. So, while our wonderful musicians are getting ready to enable us to sing the Lord's Prayer at the end, let us lead ourselves in time of quiet, drawing breath in, envisioning one of the words, perhaps, that draws you to it. Imagination, love, will, power. And feel the presence of an energy. You can be aware of that energy as your heart beats, as your lungs work in and out, as you have the sensation of your hands resting in your lap, of your torso seated on the bench. Dear God, we thank you for these powers, these competencies with which you have endowed us. We thank you by living them every day, by seeking them as we pray and meditate, focusing on them consciously, purposefully. Each morning when I wake up, just pick one. Do it for the next 21 days. Pick one, whichever it is. Have it before you. And imagine, yes, using imagination, how will you be willing to express it? What words would you speak? What thoughts will you hold? What gestures might you make? How much zeal will you put into the effort? And above all, there is love, because there is life. And we unite all of these competencies within ourselves through the Christ consciousness. I can do this. I can be this. Thank you, God. Now let us